All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I am here with Goose, Heck, and Gabe. This episode is titled Making Adjustments. In this episode, we talk about adjusting to life, its benefits, and its potential repercussions. We discuss various topics surrounding adjustments, including comfort, parenting, attitude, and other personality traits. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Confucius and James Allen. So if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Thanks from all the love and support that we've been receiving. We are a year in now. We're not new to this. But anyway, we're having fun. It's us five guys giving our perspective on life. So that's the reason why it's titled the Rotated Views Podcast, Life from Various Perspectives. So with that being said, we kick things off with a definition from dictionary.com. And this week we define the word adjustment, right? All right, a process of modifying, adapting, or altering individual or collective patterns of behavior so as to bring them into conformity with other such patterns as those provided by cultural environment. All right, so that is a pretty, I think that was the sociology definition. I did grab that purposely, just because it made more sense for the podcast.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Being that it's titled Making Adjustments. But man, that was there's a lot of things that get defined, and there's some things that get very well defined.
Yeah.
That was pretty...
This is pretty much spot on in terms of subject matter. Not just like random, like, adjusting, like, whatever.
Exactly. All right. So we like to, aside from the, the definition, we kick things off with either a story or a bio. And this week we have a story titled Making Adjustments Appropriately by Ralph Martin from greatday.com. So the article goes like this. Success is never achieved in a straight line. Although it's great to carefully put together workable, realistic plans, life doesn't always go according to plan. Yet even when conditions change quickly and dramatically, success is still possible. To succeed in such a world as this, you must be willing to constantly adapt. When something fails to go the way you planned, it's not the end of the world. In fact, things could eventually turn out even better than you had planned. Regardless of what happens or fails to happen, you can choose to successfully work it into your path forward. Instead of making judgments about what you cannot control, make adjustments in those things you can control. It might be nice if everything were to play out according to your plan, but the thing is, it won't. There will most certainly be surprises, so you might as well find a way to make positive use of them. Don't give up on your goals or dreams just because things change. Adapt, make adjustments, and make every turn of events move you forward. By Ralph Martin. Nice. So I thought that was very appropriate. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this all the time. People, on the sidelines or... maybe coming from a, not the most informed manner, think that success is a straight line to the top. Yeah. It's not. Especially, the self-made people is specifically what I talk about when we talk about, success. That, inheritance and all that other stuff. That's a whole other, topic. But like, I can only speak on where we're coming from. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, with that being said, it's a big squiggly line all over the place. It's up, it's down, it's up, down, and around, however you want to describe it. Mm-hmm. It's not a straight, even line. And I mentioned this in the last podcast where we tend to have these unrealistic expectations where we think we know, especially like as a 30-something-year-old person, right? Nothing goes as planned. Yeah. And for some reason, we still set a goal and think it's going to happen perfectly like it is. And then we, amazingly, how disappointed we get knowing darn well that's how things operate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no way to predict every single possibility that's going to happen to you. Like, there's always the stuff you don't think of that's going to happen to you.
I do appreciate, though, that he does point out in there that some things might surprise you. They might not work out as planned, but they might even be better for, we always talk about the things that we can conceive, right? Sometimes we look at the life that we have and we're like, well, how in the world did we get here? This definitely wasn't my plan, right? So, and it might be a better plan.
Yeah.
Even people who land like big jobs or things like that, or have like drastic career changes, like I would have never thought that. And good thing, right?
Yeah,
Because you would have probably ruined it for yourself, right? I mean, that's what we do. A lot of times we end up ruining it
You overthink
because.
everything and
Well, yeah, and then so here's a perfect example. It's like, going through job changes, and you don't land a specific job that you want, and you're mad. And you're like, oh man, I wanted that job, not realizing the job that you did get was better suited for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we have these weird perceptions, and we think that that's the job for us.
Or I'll say even like I've seen like certain examples of some people I follow like that they didn't go the way they planned, but it kind of prepared them for the job they were actually wanting, or like the kind of maybe where they actually wanted to go. It kind of prepared them for that aspect of it.
Right. Yeah. Because sometimes, let's just say, like for management positions, sometimes you're not ready for that.
Yeah.
Like you probably end up driving that department into the ground.
Yeah.
You're just not ready. And so maybe there's just a bridge job that's going to carry you over into where you need to be or where you want to be. And that's where the squiggly line of success comes into play. Exactly. You thought it was going to go, it's nice to think that we leap from one thing to another in a perfectly, straight up manner, but it just doesn't have that.
It's not climbing a ladder. It doesn't go that.
Yeah.
That.
What game was it where it was like you had to go Crash Bandicoot, where you had to like jump from one thing? It was like in angles and things were like constantly moving.
Yeah, they run towards the camera.
Yeah. You're like running, kind of jumping all over the place. There is a stage on there where there's like, it's like this big rock wall, and like these little pegs will stick out, and you could jump on the peg, but they'll like retract. So you only have so much time to stand on the peg to then make your next move. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you would jump, and there was no other peg to jump on to land on. You would just fall all the way down. It was like, boo, boo, boo. Like that was it. You had to start back to the beginning or whatever. I'm not sure if that's the right game, but anyway, that it is true. So we need those pegs are literally stepping stones, and it's actually a good analogy, being that these pegs were time limited and retractable. Sometimes we jump to a place of comfort, and then we stay there. Imagine if life did have those pegs where it's like just yanks it from you. Like, no, if you're not going to move, you're not going to do anything. I'm going to yank it from you. Life actually does operate that way. You take it for granted, and you just sit there, and you're just taking up space. I think it was Bob Proctor who said, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So it's kind of like one of those things. You got to be, like if your toes are like ready, you're on that peg and you're ready to jump to the next one. That's living on the edge. You just got to get ready to go, make the move, do something. Yeah. Meanwhile, it was just like people are comforted. They don't realize that peg's going to eventually retract.
Yeah.
And they're going to drop and fall on their butt is what they're going to do. And that happens all too often, daily.
No, absolutely.
So, but anyway, so moving right along here, I'm going to ask a couple questions to the crew. So the first question is making adjustments a good or a bad thing? Goose.
It could be either or. Like when you make an adjustment to move, like getting a new job. And obviously you're definitely making all kinds of adjustments. You get a different position. You're probably in charge of more stuff. And you're not used to that because probably before you didn't have all those responsibilities. Yeah. You just have to adjust to the people that you're in charge of, or even the atmosphere that you're at. You might be changing to another building. It could be like a good thing in that sense. It could be good.
Yeah.
And then like if there's something in life you get backed up on certain things like bills or stuff like that, you have to adjust to try to figure that out and make the move to correct that, to go back on track. Like there's things that fall behind. You have to like kind of pick them up and put it back on the right track. You have to make those adjustments and make things work. Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's good and bad. I think, but I think ultimately they're all for the good. When you're going through it, it might seem like it's a bad adjustment, especially the ones that are forced on you. For example, same thing. Maybe you got demoted or you got pushed to another job or something like that. It's kind of something maybe you necessarily didn't want, but you have to make those adjustments and keep moving, right? It's kind of like us. We have a like an envelope from me and my wife. Somewhat, follow the Dave Ramsey plan. We have like the envelope system. If you don't know what that is, just look it up. It's just a methodology of controlling your money. But anyway, so we have an envelope for our gas money.
And that's the envelope that changes most because gas prices are always going up and down. So we're constantly adjusting. That's a forced adjustment, though. I don't want it to increase it. You know what I mean? But I have to change. If I want to make it to where I need to make it to, I have to put more money into that specific envelope. So the next question is, does it go against the grain? Well, again, that also depends. That depends on what kind of adjustment you're making. I believe anything, if you're making any kind of adjustment is just another way of a word for a form of change. So change always goes against the grain, no matter what, because when we're changing, we're now out of our comfort levels. We're out of our comfort zones.
You're changing your course of action.
Yeah, and obviously it's not something that we normally do. We're not on that routine. The routine is what's killing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
When people have that same routine of getting up, going to work, stopping at a Wawa, grabbing a cup, like a coffee and a coffee cake, grabbing gas, whatever you do, get to work, you eat at the same place for lunch, whatever. Yeah, and then when that doesn't happen, here's a problem with routines. When that doesn't happen, that messes up your whole day.
Yeah,
that's
you get lost.
You
get
because you have your routine, like you're on auto drive essentially for the most part, and then something minus changes, then you forget something, you lose something, whatever it is, or that's when you have the bad morning or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. I was just telling this to somebody today. I forget who it was, but I was telling him I literally use the GPS every day just to see where it's going to take me, because my GPS is an app that actually reads traffic. They might, probably the majority of them do now, but it reads traffic, so it's kind of tell you the most efficient way to get to where you're going. It also determines whether you want to pay for tolls or you don't want to pay for tolls, and you get to click the option. But anyway, with that being said, I know how to get to my place of employment, but I still put in the GPS just to see other ways it's going to take me. Also, by doing that, it's actually, conditioning my mind to not be comfortable. Yeah. Because I'm constantly, now my eyes are peeled back, 'cause I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But then I'm like looking for landmarks and looking, just like, okay, that looks familiar, or that doesn't look familiar. I remember that for next time. And so you're sending different, messages to your, the parts of your bodies. I forget what it's called, like the neuroplasticity. Oh, you're changing the neuroplasticity of your brain. Yeah. So when your brain is sending a message, it's like this electric message. Let's just say it's like a bolt of energy shooting, going back and forth, back and forth. Well, when you cut that in the middle and have like a little split, and now it's shooting this way, all of a sudden a focus changes, because it's like, well, what's different? That's different. What's going on there?
Yeah, right.
That's the goal. So when you're purposely doing that, and you can do that a lot, you're comfortable with it. But if you're used to going to Wawa every single day and getting the same lunch every day and staying on the routine every day, and that breaks, you panic. Instead of quickly trying to think of a solution normally, and when I say panic, I mean, obviously you're not like, like it's a life-threatening thing, but your mind actually goes into the sirens start going off, like, whoa, something's wrong here. If you go to work, it's actually in a book. One of the tips of to change the way your life is operating is to go to work a different way every single day.
Yeah.
So you get out of that routine. Don't stop at the same place. And if you do go to the same place, order a different kind of coffee or a different kind of tea or a different kind of breakfast.
Change it up.
Yeah, do something different, because it's actually a survival thing too. Because let's just say like you're thrown out, quote, in the wild. This is a very exaggerated example, but let's just say you're thrown out in the wild. You're not going to have all the choices that you like.
I can't have the same coffee.
You can't have the same coffee.
No, not at all.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's prepping you to ready, for whatever life's about to throw you. So anyway,
you learn to just go with the flow.
Right. So now you're creating these little adjustments every single day, so that when you're making the larger adjustments, it's much easier. So when you get put in these weird positions, for example, let's just say your boss says, put together this project, you have 1 week, and yet we're waiting for you to deliver a presentation on it by the end of the day on Friday.
So as opposed to you freaking out, you're more calmer, and you can deal with the situation easier.
Which route do I need to take to get there? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Even me and Heck, we used to go, like off-road bike riding. I don't want to say just bike riding because it sounds weird, but
extreme bike riding, kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of go like in the woods or whatever, and they have man-made ramps and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I remember a couple times where obviously you're dealing with nature and trees have fell over the path. That's like, anyone knows if you go on a pathway like in nature that's constantly, it's just like a dirt trail, you know, like at one point. So you could see the path in front of you. So we're riding our bikes and then there's a tree. I remember the one day me and him just kind of looked at each other because we would go the same exact way every time we would take that path. So now we're in the middle of the woods and we had to make a decision whether to turn back or pick another route. So we picked another route. We did get kind of lost, but we ended up finding our way. But then we ended up finding something else, like a steeper ramp or something like that we didn't even know what was there. But it was just one of those things where maybe that was like a forced adjustment, but we still went with it. And like I said, we discovered like a new, area of the trail that we never knew existed. But
that becomes a pleasant surprise.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we also added like a half hour to what we didn't really want to.
Workout, kind of. Yeah. Oh, that was when we found that one area where there's multiple ramps at. There was like an open field kind of thing. And they had somebody had built like ramps and stuff like that. That's when that was
like
that day
its
we
own
found.
course.
Yeah, it was like a course kind of.
Yeah, it was like someone was like prepping for like the X Games, and I'm not exaggerating.
Oh, okay.
It was literally like something like out of a video, like it was fake. It was like more like the sand color in the woods.
In the woods, it's all
so it's like dirt.
literally dirt, leaves, trees, mud.
Okay.
Like we would go in clean, come out dirty.
Yeah.
From the mud, because we literally there's creeks we had to cross over and stuff like
you
that.
would ride through like the sticker bushes.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! So you'd have gloves. You'd have like handkerchiefs that covered your neck because literally the branches like smack you like because you're just ducking
Whip you.
and you're going so fast. And some of these things are like downhill. You don't have time to react. You're gonna get hit with something. So you have to wear sunglasses, mask, like down here, hat, so you don't get like no ticks or anything on you.
Wear a hazmat suit.
Just be in a bubble.
Yeah.
And
Or just
roll.
don't go at all.
Yeah, just
Change.
don't
Just
go.
pretend you went there.
Yeah. So with all these adjustments, the big question is it possible to go through life without making an adjustment gate?
No, I can't imagine like you don't. Like if you don't make any adjustments, you're the most frustrated person in the world. Like how do you not adjust to your situation?
Adjustments come by themselves though. Because whether you want them or not, they're always going to come.
Yeah. That's
Whether you're going to make it or it's going to make it for you and you have to adjust. So I'm going to say, no, there's no way.
Next to
you can go through
impossible to not make any kind of adjustments in life.
Well, especially with everything evolving. I mean, just think about like just within like the last 10 years how far we've come just in technology.
Absolutely.
And you're like, okay, can you go through life without making adjustments? There's stuff that's forced on you, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I mean, even with from 10 years ago, you could have been one of those guys who had the time card that stamped your time to now you have like the Chronos, which most people have, where you have to, it's they have the biometric reader, so it reads your fingerprint. Can tell. So people, back in the day, I remember hearing stories like, oh yeah, my boy clocked in for me. Like people doing stuff like that. Like you can't do that with a biometric reader.
No, not at all.
Yeah, with a paper card, sure.
With the paper card, it's like, oh, what time did you come in today?
On my job, somebody got fired for that, but
yeah, exactly.
For doing that for people.
It's
but you can't steal somebody's finger, so
right,
unless
exactly.
you cut it off, but
that's a whole nother adjustment. But yeah, I mean, with anything, there's totally, okay, so think about moving in with someone, right? There goes another adjustment. The new job, just being so basically just even not even
life in general.
Yeah, not even moving in with somebody. Obviously, that's a whole adjustment. But just meeting a new person, how they walk through life is totally different.
Yeah, just interaction, how they deal with other people, and
for people to even live in like a block away from you.
Yeah.
How they operate, even their family dynamics are different. You see how they, whatever. It's acceptable for them to go to bed at a certain time where in your family it might not be acceptable. You have to go to bed at 9 and then they're allowed to go to bed at 11. Like that alone, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But all those paradigm shifts, all those like, little adjustments that you're making, because now that's norm.
Yeah.
That's the norm. That's your new norm. And so every day is going to be your new norm.
Yeah.
Because you're just constantly changing.
And then even like those cultural differences and all that.
Yes, exactly. And then you actually have to move on to like the physical stuff. Like your physical body. is gonna make you make those adjustments. My body is, not as forgiving as it once was. Even
absolutely.
we just put the shed together. Me and Heck were putting the shed together, and we're being quote macho men, lifted up a whole roof, just me and him, and plopped it on. Well, at the time, I guess my adrenaline was going. I had no idea. I definitely felt the tweak in my back. And it was to the next day where I was literally couldn't roll out of bed. Like, it was just crazy muscle spasms on my lower back. But I know exactly that's what that was. So, but if I would have done that 10 years ago, I could have just woke up and just rolled out of bed. I probably would have had some back pain, but not like
You
that.
have done like 20 roofs.
Yeah, exactly. I always remember we were leaving sophomore year, heading into summer break from Temple University. And I was carrying this huge area rug. It was beyond the normal size of an area rug. Like, I was on like a
full-size
12
carpet.
foot, yeah, like
full
this 12
carpet
foot
for the
thing.
living room.
And I remember I had like a beater on, shorts on, and like sneakers, and I had this thing over my arm like that. And I'm just walking like to the car to throw it on top of the roof or whatever. And this dude, like I guess like somebody's grandfather or older father, was standing there. He's like, "Man, what would I do to be young again?" And I was like, haha, and you just kept walking. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'll never get there.
Yeah.
And here I am like 10 years later. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't be able to do that now.
Yeah, I remember even like at my job when we have to like paper like charts. I used to carry charts from the 8th floor, a giant pile like up to like my waist all the way up to my face.
Yeah.
Just carry elevator down the stairs and everything and just drop them off at the front desk. And
Yeah.
it was like nothing.
Yeah.
Now you have a cart.
Now when there's everything electronic now, and all the doctors say, "Oh, you're gonna hurt your back eventually." And like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, whatever, I don't care."
Thanks.
You think nothing of it. Yeah.
But thankfully, we went electronic. I don't have to carry all those charts anymore. But
Yeah.
Thanks for thumb drives.
exactly.
Oh, man. All right, Heck, so this next one's from you.
Okay.
Have you ever gotten too comfortable with something?
Absolutely. I mean, jobs where I used to work, it was just too comfortable that I know it's pretty bad when you're too comfortable at your job. Like, you shouldn't be doing half of the stuff that you're doing, but
Yeah.
it's like it's
You get away
it's
with
rare
murder.
that you're gonna get away with. I mean, it's rare that it will catch up to you.
Yeah.
So like in my head, I was like, dude, it's got to change. It's got to
Yeah.
change. It's got to change. And then once I got the opportunity to go to another position, I got scared going into something because it was a complete drastic change. It was different time of shift, like my hours for work, and doing different work altogether.
Yeah.
So of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get when you get too comfortable, and if you know it, that's when you know it's time for the adjustment.
I think I did that. I think maybe everyone does it at one point, gets too comfortable at a job. Now, there's people who catch themselves and make, the appropriate adjustments. But there's other people who are just like, well, I'm just going to see
Don't
how far
care.
far I can go.
Absolutely.
50 years
Um,
later.
No, and the sad part is there are people that do that 50 years later. They're still doing the same.
Well, I caught
nonsense.
myself. I didn't even realize I was doing something where I was just kind of like, just going through the motions, really.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, whoa, what am I doing here? And then I made the appropriate adjustments. But sometimes you get comfortable and you're not even realizing it.
Yeah.
Your body is constantly seeking to be comfortable. That's why people, that they love change. That's just a natural thing of the human body. It's a protective mechanism. It's supposed to do that. And so that's why people always say like, oh, there's comfort foods, there's all this, because that's how your body's coping with maybe a highly stressful life event.
Yeah.
So you just go back to what you know. And so your body's like, oh, I'm just going to eat comfort food. I'm going to do something that you used to do as a little kid, sit on the couch and watch TV and watch like the reruns of Price is Right. No, I'm serious. That's what your body. So your
That's what
body's meant.
nostalgia and all that stuff comes.
Yeah,
from, too.
exactly. Your body's meant to protect you, and it thinks it's doing the best for you. But you have to be mentally strong enough to realize, you have to make a change here.
Yeah.
That's when that kinds of stuff goes against you. The healing process is great when a very physical way. Like, for example, if you catch like an abrasion or like scraping your hand up against like the sidewalk, right? And you get this like little scab, and then all of a sudden the scab turns into like a little scar, and if you treat it properly, the scar can go away. That's a healing process. That's your body naturally healing itself. Well, it does that on all planes of the human body, whether it's mental or physical. And so you have to be aware of that, though.
Yeah.
So that process, yes, let it take its course. But there's other processes where it's drawing back to the comfort levels, and you have to escape.
Or even
them.
like, I mean, I guess going in both angles, like the well, obviously change builds character, but also like in your body, like you like muscle shock. You always have to
Yes.
constantly change the thing.
Yeah,
to,
your
to build
workouts.
muscle and all that stuff. You have to do it properly. You have to constantly change your routine.
Well, that goes back to my initial example. That muscle shock is what I'm talking. That's like, so that's a term that's used in weight training and any level of physical training, where you basically you're switching up your workouts. You're hitting the same muscle groups, but you're switching out your workouts, also the timing of them. So then it shocks the muscle because you're doing a new range of motion in a different way, in a different style, whatever it is, and your muscles aren't used to that. So boom, it shocks them as if you're working out again for the first time. So everyone knows if you work out for the first time in like a year or whatever, 5 months, that first workout, the next day you're hurting,
Forget
right?
about it.
So that's that
Sure.
crazy pain comes from the muscle shock. So the strategy of using, changing up these exercises is to get that level of muscle, because that's when you get the most growth, right? So if you could think of that, that's what I was kind of talking about, like when you drive home a different way,
Yeah.
or how you interact with people, try a different way. Even in your relationships, handle situations differently just to see where they go. It'll create that muscle shock. It might hurt,
yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
in that pain is the growth. And so if you could think of it as in like the way we work out and things like that, I always had a pet peeve when I first got into the personal development industry, when people would use physical training and sports as analogies, but they really are so dead on, you can't avoid them, because they're the easiest, because it's not that they're the easiest, they're the best that anyone can understand, because everyone goes through it no matter what.
Exactly.
Remember that good old saying, no pain, no gain?
Yeah.
I never understood it.
Yeah.
And then when I actually understood, I'm like, oh, that actually makes complete sense. It's like,
Yeah,
that's where you gain.
'Cause-
That's where you gain the most from.
that's when you're actually building anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just remind me of like Mr. T with that crazy mohawk and like the 27 chains.
Beautiful.
God.
Well, Gabe, what has been the best adjustment you ever made?
Well, I would say, like, I guess going back to like the when we started like the business thing, that kind of helped me just because I was always more introvert, I guess, for the most part, and I've it always took me a lot longer to warm up to open up to people and stuff like that. So that kind of helped, at least personality wise, at least be more open with people. Even though I still have habits of I break into, but that at least gives me a little more. Help me be more little open in terms of a little more personality wise, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that was one of my biggest change by far still to date when I got introduced. And the thing though with me was I was strangely or oddly open to the concepts. I still can't like trigger back to the point where what made me just keep going back and learning more. When I was going into my senior year at Temple, I was wrapping things up, and for some reason I was open to whatever these people were saying.
And that's what it was. Like for some reason I wanted to force myself into these weird situations, just like to have to deal with people on a certain whole other level that I never dealt with before.
Yeah, but my whole concept, my whole new like philosophy on life, like make it today an adventure and have fun. That goes along with it. Putting yourself in funny situations, almost like I've never been here before, and this is actually happening. You, even if you turn beet red, even if you are embarrassed, even if you don't know what you're doing, even if though you look dumb, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That all that stuff is meant for growth, and you don't know, because you did something different, you don't know what the result was. So when you do the stuff that's the same day in, day out, it's predictable. You know what your results are going to be.
Yeah,
so when you want to make major change in your life, so this goes out to anybody who wants to see a difference. They're not infatuated with their life results at this point. You could do this in baby steps, in small adjustments, which is my next question. What was, one small adjustment that you made that landed you bigger profits? That's it, is doing something different, because now you can't predict the results, and now you got out of your own way. When if you knew you did A, B, and C in that direct lineage, you knew your result was very predictable. But if you go A, F, Z, D, and all of a sudden you're all over the map, you don't know what's going to happen now. Now life gets a chance to bring you something new. It's a new gift that it gets to, bring forward to you, and you're allowing for that to happen, even though you're uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, so actually I want to switch gears a little bit. Still obviously about adjustment, but the question is, what do you think it's like adjustment-wise for someone who gets instant fame? So we always see like these guys who win contracts out of these shows, or how do you think they handle it, or how would you handle it, or how would you think you would handle it? Because obviously you couldn't.
Some people are different. Some people like seek that. They're waiting for that fame, and they want to be like glorified, and they take it to a whole nother level. Yeah. Some people, they just
can't.
They're just not ready for it.
Yeah, they're not ready for it, and they just like they don't know what to do. Yeah. Like they don't even realize how big their talent is, and they end up winning. And they're just like in like this whole world they've never been in. Because you would see in some of these shows, this like someone will come from like, I don't know, from like Alabama, where they lived on a farm somewhere, and then they come into the city, and they're like amazed by like the city life, the fast pace and stuff like that. It's like so. Some people just don't know how to like take that with the traveling and moving around and meeting all kinds of people. And then there's other people, like, that's what they want, and they seek it, and they just want they take all advantage of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, speaking on like the whole fame thing, I did hear two things. One thing is I did hear before, like I was always a presumption, like you would say, oh well, like you're a celebrity, like this is the life you signed up for, right? Yeah. And then thankfully for the internet, within that time frame, I guess within like a very short period of time, because YouTube was like huge. Then I'm talking like 2006-ish, 2007-ish. Yeah. All in that same time, I was able to watch unlimited interviews of like new artists and celebrities in that sense. And they say, yeah, I did sign up for my singing career to take off, but what you don't know what comes with it. Yeah, you don't know what comes with that fame. Mm-hmm. You're not thinking like, yes, I want to be this famous singer so I can get completely annoyed by paparazzi every single day. Exactly. Like, they say you don't. He's like, yes, I signed up. Yeah, I wanted to be famous, but you're not understanding the baggage. You're thinking of all the good stuff. You don't realize all the baggage that comes with it. Yeah. So now I'm on a more of an understanding. I'm like, okay, that actually makes sense. And then my second thing was, I remember there's an interview with Fat Joe, and Fat Joe was, I don't know if he discovered DJ Khaled, but I guess he was helped putting him on. Yeah. And he put him on like one track or something like that. And DJ Khaled has not stopped. We're talking about what, 15 years ago? Yeah. Fat Joe's from the New York area, and DJ Khaled is from New Orleans, I believe. Okay. And so you were talking about somebody who just gave someone else one opportunity,
and they
ran with it.
I'm not. DJ Khaled might actually have a bigger net worth than Fat Joe at this point. Yeah. And that sounds crazy when you think about it. He's like, he was given one little chance. Not only took it, he ran with that.
Still running with it.
Yeah, exactly. Still has a new album coming out, and
another one.
Yeah, another one.
And then there's some I was just looking at. There was like a music producer. He was, for the most part, behind the scenes, making a lot of music for a lot of good music for a lot of celebrity or famous artists. And then he finally came out and like was put out there. Like people got to see who actually was making his beats. Yeah. He became like an instant celebrity, and then he was still making music and was up there, one of the top producers. And then he kind of like was infatuated with like the fame life, that he kind of fell off doing the producing stuff and just kept partying and hanging out and like living that whole where he stopped working, so he stopped making money and kind of lost pretty much everything. Now he's trying to come back up to it, and he's pretty much starting from scratch just because he hit that fame and just was soaking it all in, but he actually stopped working. And he just fell off on his talent.
Lost focus.
That's
what it was.
He got comfortable.
Okay, if you could just imagine what it would be like if you won the jackpot of the lottery, something like $100 million after taxes, what adjustments, just thinking right now, obviously none of us have gone through it, so we can't obviously speak on it, but just thinking about it, if the possibility of you winning $100 million straight up right now that was transferred into your bank account tonight, what adjustments could you anticipate at this point?
A lot of I
know, but which ones?
A whole different lifestyle.
I'll say total lifestyle change.
Your lifestyle's change. I mean,
different house, different everything. Like
absolutely.
Just go off the grid and then
But then you'll have
At the
those bad things too. People,
Same time, yeah, you gotta have.
You
your
ha- you gotta-
defense.
That's the first thing you do, like financial advisor and all that stuff, to make sure you can stabilize all that money.
so yes, I mean, you could talk it, and then once it starts happening, it'll
walk
definitely it'll change it. Like you could say, oh, I'm just gonna be very subtle with my stuff and this and that, and
But-
oh, I'm gonna put money away and save it.
But when the time
comes, he's like,
that what
I
you're
can afford this. I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna buy
Yeah.
this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna. Next
It's
thing you know,
justice
you're
to
just
the- yeah.
like, I don't know that you're.
for maybe
What's that? What?
maybe you'll be like that.
Oh yeah, maybe. I'm just saying,
There's
but
some people who
it's-
can actually
who can
hold- yeah.
control themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I'm one of them people, but I've seen there's a guy who there's athletes. There's certain like Leonard from the Spurs. He apparently he's like one of those guys who lives very frugally. I would say I hate when they use that term too. Why? Because the guy's smart with his money. Now he's frugal.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do the glamorous stuff.
Yeah.
Which
Right, that's just
it's
not
not
their
right
lifestyle.
or wrong. It's just that's what he chose.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of fame. That's a lot of money, and his composure's sick. And this guy's in his 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could have his interviews got to be the most down to earth, relatable interviews you would ever hear. Like I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
and you give Matt like much respect to a person like that, whereas you see someone that has like all this money, he's like just throwing it around like
Exactly.
Well, that's like
some athletes is like, come on.
like all of us right here. We all, if we were to hit the jackpot, whatever, we've already dream built. If that time were to come or that would happen, you already know kind of what you would do in
Yeah.
a sense. Some people, it comes at them so fast, they don't even know what to do with it. They just want to just get rid of it and just keep going and throwing it and spending it and stuff like that. They have like no
Yes.
game plan.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, for the most part, a lot of people do have like somewhat of a game plan, whether it's like over the top or just being basic with it.
There's this story of I think it was four couples. It was four couples, 4 farms that were all connected to each other, split by a street, and the 4 couples were like best friends. So they would go to each other's house. Like someone would have them. Each weekend they would have like a thing at each other's house. That's what I'm trying to say. And so they were very close knit. So at these little cookouts or little dinners that they would have every weekend, they would talk about winning the lottery and what they would do with winning the lottery. So they would, because they all have farmlands and the husbands work literally like whatever it is, 3 a.m. to whatever, crazy hours. They would say they would all buy shore houses, like something by the beach, nice big, and 4 of them all together, or just something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so every Saturday when they met up with whatever, the guys would go to the local gas station or something and grab drinks.
Yep.
And on the way home, they would grab these lottery tickets that that they all filled out together, and they would just go through. They would hang out till like 11 o'clock when they go up, like, no, we didn't win, and they would just go home, kind of, good old time. They're older. All the kids were out of I would say they were probably like in their 50s. I'm not saying that's old. They're older, so they didn't have like little kids running around the house or anything.
Empty
like
nest.
that. Yes, they're empty nesters. They grew up. They're 25 plus years together. Did this whole thing. So it was like this was going on for 10 years of them doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then one day they hit the jackpot.
Wow.
They literally hit the jackpot, and they all went and bought shore houses together. Like
No
literally
way. That's awesome.
did exactly what they said they would do.
That's awesome.
They didn't. Obviously, for privacy reasons, they didn't say obviously where they bought them and what else they did with the money. But they zoomed in on that specific thing. And you see these people, you could tell that's exactly what they said they did. They were the most down to earth, chill people, and looked like they just had like a good old time with it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, I was just speaking on the point that they didn't get like nutty with it.
Yeah.
But you also don't know what you don't know. So if you're younger and you didn't really experience so much of life in a financial sense, you don't know any better. But you blowing it, you think that's okay. Like you don't know any better.
Yeah.
We're not. Who the heck are we to say like, oh, you should have done that with their money? I just know it's not as easy as it. We like to portray it to be like, oh well, if I had $100 million, I wouldn't done that.
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
but that's the thing.
You can
Though,
always
you
talk.
don't have the 100. Yeah, exactly. It's very easy looking at from the outside and being critical to other people's actions.
Oh, of course.
So moving right along here, let's jump into Dad's life. So as a dad, What has been your easiest adjustment and what has been your hardest adjustment? Heck.
My easy adjustment was getting up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The hardest adjustment is watching them grow.
Yeah.
Just because they're going through, like, not bad things, they're just going through so much changes and stuff like that, and
Puberty.
seeing them become actual people, like they're
Yeah.
becoming their own person and stuff like that. So, and watching them, like, because we're trying to make them, you know, have the right decisions and make the right choices and things and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it gets kind of tough.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough dealing with them, especially now that I have a teenager, well, almost a teenager, and I have little ones, so they kind of watch her with stuff. So we got to kind of balance it out and make sure that they stay as child, not trying to adjust, trying to grow up fast with the oldest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. I think the easiest adjustment, I don't even think it's really of an adjustment, more of like a transition, is having fun and playing with my son.
Yeah.
Well, I was a boy once, and so I already kind of knew what he would. I would anticipate what he would like. So we were already buying him the toys, getting his stuff. So it was like that adjustment is like, well, I'm a guy. I already know what he's gonna like, and he did. And so it was like that. We're literally just like, having an absolute blast. I guess our hardest adjustment. Well, there's a lot of hard adjustments. I think like just first of all, you're taking care of another person.
Yeah.
Like that's. I don't care at what level of knowledge or background you have. That's still not an easy task, or even if you know what you're even doing, to some extent. I guess that's the hardest part. Like just that being a truth. It's like, dude, this is up to you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
actually handling that emotionally is really hard. Not in like in a soft way, but like really like taking that in. Like, dude, it's on you.
Yeah.
This other little person's depending on you. So I think that created a lot of pressure in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree with like heck, as it's hard to like get ready to adjust, like knowing that they're hitting certain ages and like they're hanging out with friends now, and they kind of almost want to be independent, and you gotta try to like adjust to give them a little bit of freedom, but you don't. And then as like they get older, they go into the next step, and you feel like, oh, well, that adjustment wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But like it's as the adjustments come, as like the changes come, I feel like that's the most difficult thing. You as a parent to your decision making.
Yeah.
On like switching things over and kind of. I don't know. I'm not at the teenage part yet, but it's like she's hanging out with friends, and she's 10, but she's hanging out with friends and having like these sleepovers. And next few years, it's like she'll be a teen, and then that's when like boys come and stuff like that. So you try to make that adjustment where you don't want their feelings to be hurt, so you get overprotective. And as a parent, you have to kind of step back up or put your foot in. You kind of just don't know. I don't know. So like I'm already like thinking about the future and in my mind. To adjust to a teenager.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like those things are, to me, that's what's like difficult. And then as it passes, it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
Like the adjustment wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only thing you can do is anticipate what level of change is going to partake, because even still every kid is different. So they're still going to make different choices, different, have different decisions that they don't realize at the time they're making these decisions, they're paying consequences, and so is their parents.
Yeah.
So we're paying for choices that the kids are making, whether they're good or bad, right? So a perfect example is like if your kid's very gifted, like to say, athletic wise, and then gets like invited to all these like track meets. Let's say it's a track and field thing. Now you have to make the adjustment of now you're the student athlete mom or dad, where you have to take them to all these extra events that you didn't go to because your kid's like athletic ability is superior to yours ever was somehow, and then and then now you're making all these other adjustments you never anticipated. Mm-hmm. So like there's still life's still gonna smack you with with stuff that you couldn't. It's just like I talked to a couple parents that they're saying they thought their child was gonna be really into music because they're both musically inclined. Mm-hmm. So they have all these instruments around the house. They have this kid in taking lessons. The kid doesn't want anything. The kid is a phenomenal athlete. Which both of the parents are not the most non-athletic people you ever see. They have even like looking at the dad, like he didn't even have like muscle tone or nothing to him. Like he's just not athletic, which is not bad, but it just didn't. And this kid is like this little ripped up little kid
Yeah.
and he wants to play
Athlete, yeah.
sports and stuff.
That's
And the
awesome.
parent, maybe eventually he'll end up playing like an instrument, or it probably
Yeah.
be like one of those crazy gifted guys or whatever. But I just thought it was funny because they anticipated like, oh, we're gonna have a musician on our hands.
Yeah.
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 Would never anticipate the athlete.
Yeah.
And then
That's
God
funny.
bless
There's
him with that.
there's like athletes like that. Like the parents made them play baseball all their life, and then next thing you know, they're not even playing major leagues. They're playing NFL.
Right.
Like, how did that happen? You were playing baseball your life,
Yeah.
hitting a ball, and then all of a sudden now you're getting tackled and you're throwing the football like a different side. It's crazy how that just turns around.
Yeah, I mean that is also one of those things where you're making talking about making adjustments. I remember like being a kid in my mind saying like, whatever my mom or dad just did, I'm not gonna do that to my kid. So you have these like little adjustments in your head that you're gonna make when it came to parenting.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it happens to you, and you're like, okay, I see why mom and dad did that. Even though if you still don't agree with it, but now you actually understand them. It was kind of like last week we were, reading through Life's Missing Instruction Manual by Joe Vitale. He says that that your parents are doing that the best that they can.
Yeah.
And then slowly in life, sometimes sadly, you realize they were coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
you're taking out stuff on them that you shouldn't have or whatever.
Or you just don't understand at the time.
Yeah, that's funny. Like mine was, we didn't have the Disney Channel at home, so I always said to myself, I was like, when I become an adult, I'm gonna get the Disney Channel for my kids. And it's like literally, that's how simple minded I was, and it wasn't because I didn't, and I never told them to get Disney Channel or anything. It was just, I guess, it was never part of the package deal with cable or whatever the world was. I don't know. But I always told myself, I was like, I would always make sure that my kids have the Disney Channel because
Yeah.
I missed out on Disney Channel, like the shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mickey Mouse.
And now
Club.
now we have like, what is there, like 3 or 4 different Disney
I
channels?
was Disney deprived.
Yeah, it really was.
Now you
I
have-
watch it now.
Now you have excess of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unlimited
now it's-
access to it. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. So, all right. So, lastly, what advice would you give someone going through a major life change?
You're going to have to go through it. I mean, whether it's good or bad, you just have to stay with it.
Yeah, I feel like everything just works out somehow.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
works out. Even if you make the slightest adjustments or whatever, it just falls in place somehow.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Eventually.
it will turn out good, and in hindsight, it won't be as negative as you think it actually was
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a good point. Just showing up every day
Yeah.
is the ticket, really.
Yeah,
Some people just
absolutely.
clock out before things get started.
Yeah.
And like Goose says, things end up working out. The best example that I know, this is kind of like an overused example, but for those people out there who've never heard this or thought of things in this manner, is like the GPS is navigating you. So obviously the GPS is meant to help navigate you to get from point A to point B, and now GPSs are there to do it in the most efficient way,
Yeah.
cost effective way, however you want, as we mentioned earlier. But anyone here has ever used a GPS which happens very often, you take the wrong turn because you don't know what in the world 1,000 feet is or 500
Yeah.
feet is,
Oh, boy.
and 2 streets are very close to each other. What does the GPS do?
Redirect.
Yes, recalculating.
Yeah.
And it changes, okay, you made a boo-boo or you made the wrong turn, but I'm going to redirect you
Yeah.
to or recalculate to where you need to be to still end up where you want to go.
Yeah.
So if you could think of just life that way, you're going to make a wrong turn here and there. But if you could just stay on track, and the GPS system that we always talk about, that could be a mentor or a coach or a friend or a brother or a parent. It doesn't matter. You could just bounce ideas off people. Just don't give up. Don't quit. Just like Goose was saying, just if you get up and make a progressive, step forward, it's gonna work out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all life wants to see, is that you're at least trying and getting up. And it's the people that quit, obviously, that are that don't get anywhere. But the people who are at least trying, and it might not be the best effort, and it might not be in the right direction.
They're still trying.
They're still trying,
Yeah.
and you would hopefully the GPS system will recalculate and send you in the right direction. So there it is.
Absolutely.
There you have it. We like to wrap up our episodes with 2 quotes, and the first one is by James Allen. A man is not rightly conditioned until he is a happy, healthy, and prosperous being. and happiness, health, and prosperity are the result of a harmonious adjustment of the inner with the outer of the man with his surroundings. James Allen. And the second one is by Confucius. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps.
Ooh, that was a good one.
So there you have it, folks, making adjustments. In this episode, we talked about adjusting to life, its benefits, and its potential repercussions. We discussed various topics surrounding adjustments, including comfort, parenting, attitude, and other personality traits. We wrapped the episode up with quotes from Confucius and James Allen. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by the Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.